We actually decided, isn't it?
We will call the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners April 19th, 2022 County Board meeting to order, and we will begin with a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, would anyone like to approve the regular meeting proposed agenda?
Any changes?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. With the commission's permission, staff would like to add a consent item. It would be item 2.20, and it is a request for approval of a premise gambling permit for Carefree Country Club. The RBA was sent to you last evening, and it is made part of the record.
Madam Chair, I'll move the amended agenda.
Motion's been made to approve the amended agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Now we can move on to the consent agenda.
I move approval with the addition of that 2.2 item of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the change that was 2.2 added.
It's actually 2.20, sorry.
2.20.
220, yeah.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion is passed. Now we can move on to announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Just a few brief announcements for the board. First of all, in terms of legislative activity, the county lobbyist did send a good email to you this morning, kind of summarizing where things are at. The legislature is back in session, and in fact, we'll be down there this afternoon. We have a hearing with the Senate Transportation Finance Committee on our Trunk Highway 169 County Road 4 overpass project. County Engineer Andrew Witter and Commissioner Phobie will be testifying this afternoon, and we're in good stead there, I think. In addition, the county priority to change statute regarding mentally ill and dangerous is progressing. That's gone quite well. Really kudos to Amanda and her team. She's been down there a couple times testifying as well, and we hope to see some progress there as well. In addition, both AMC and MACA have been keeping you updated, I think, on their legislative priorities, and things seem to be progressing quite well. The other area that I'd highlight, while it's not a county initiative, is discussions about funding for community corrections and probation activities. We don't, unfortunately, have a formula change in the statute, or at least in the bills at this time, but funding seems to be moving forward as well. And then last but not least, on legislative activities, there is some discussion of increase in county program aid, but it's really not a significant amount. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Shifting gears to ARPA, Dan will have his normal ARPA report, but just wanted to note that there seems to be some changing guidance, at least for large counties, in terms of clawback. So if money is not earmarked or allocated, it's brought back. That won't be an issue for Sherburne County, but in your conversations across the state, you may hear discussions about the difficulty with the federal requirements and regulations. It's definitely more bureaucratic than the CARES Act was. And then just a note for your calendars, we do have some summer activities. There's still an opportunity to sign up for NACO if you're interested. Housing is shifted to now the third hotel there in Colorado. So if you are interested, please let us know and we'll get you scheduled for that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, can I quick ask one thing? Bruce, can we kind of get occasional updates on where the discussion is with the potential change to the way the formula for the MnDOT funds is looking to, because they haven't changed that formula since 1960, so there is some movement down at the state level to look at that and readjust definitions and who gets what.
That's great. I wasn't tracking that, but Andrew, do you know anything about it? Do you want to? He got back in. I'll ask him to get a quick update. It wasn't on our tracker, but we'll definitely add it.
Yeah, they are looking at, I think, a 30-35, what they call the core distribution, and then what they want to call 40 miles outside of that core, and then greater. So I think we need to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, there's also been some interesting discussion about changing the homestead exclusion. I think Dan and I have the opinion it's a lot of discussion, but not a lot of impact at the end of the day. But property tax relief is definitely starting to bubble up in the legislature as well, although that's the only specific thing I've been tracking is the homestead exclusion.
Okay, great.
Okay. So now we can move on to open forum. Do we have anyone signed?
Do you want me to go through the rules first, Madam Chair?
What was that?
Read the rules first?
Yes, well, let's read the, but I just first, we have people, so.
Madam Chair, we have 7 people signed up this morning.
Okay, so we could read the rules.
Yeah, and with 7 people, 3 minutes. We have a 15-minute limit, but with 7 people, I guess I would recommend to the board that you waive it and let all 7 people speak if that's the board's, desire.
Is that okay? Okay, we can do that.
So open forum is established, and the purpose is to allow for public input and or information to be presented to the county board that does not require action of the board at the meeting. Personal attacks of any kind against another person, a commissioner, or an employee are not allowed. Campaign-type presentations are also not allowed. Time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, with a maximum of 5 speakers, and the board has said 7 speakers today. The time limit may be shortened or extended at the discretion of the board chair. Discussions that require additional time beyond the original 15 minutes will be recessed and continued following the conclusion of the regular board business meeting. All input and information is to be addressed to the Board of Commissioners as a whole, not to individual commissioners and not to members of the audience. Speaker handouts are public information. The county may make copies of such handouts for the public if needed, and if there are handouts, the clerk of the board can accept them and distribute them for you. The county board chair will ensure that the open forum policy is followed. Please note, any information provided to the county board on a matter that is subject to a public hearing will not be considered at the board during public comment. You are asked to write or submit your comments in accordance with the instructions for the public hearing to ensure your opinion becomes part of the record for consideration. And in addition, if you, with the number of speakers, if there's more than 7, we do ask that you consider a spokesperson to speak, and then just let it be known that you share the same view. Thank you.
Okay, so we will call people on the order that they've signed in, and so who's our first?
So first we have Gary Tunsager of Elk River talking on EAC.
Good morning. My name is Gary Tonsger. I'm a resident of Elk River. I'm here to talk to you this morning about why the commission should not renew the contract for Dominion Voting Systems. Yes, Dominion Voting Systems is certified by the EAC, the Electronic Assistance Commission, but that commission, by its own admission, is rendered meaningless. That certification is rendered meaningless. According to the EAC's own scope of certification, it is not a substitute for state and local election testing and is not a determination that the system is ready for an election. If that is true, then why have the certification at all? Also, Dominion voting system is operating on Windows 7 and has a Windows Server 2008 R2. On January 14th, 2020, support for Windows 7 ended 10 months before the 2020 election. That means there were no software or security updates and fixes for 10 months before the election. According to Microsoft, while you can still run systems Windows 7 without software and security updates, your system would be at a greater risk for viruses and malware. But how could this be? How could Dominion's state-of-the-art voting machines make that big of a mistake to leave their systems, our votes, so vulnerable to a system attack? I have my suspicions, and I'm not the only one. According to a October 2021 Rasmussen survey, 61% of likely voters feel there was enough cheating in the 2020 election to change the outcome. Also, is it true that their modems, our votes, are connected to the internet? It sure looks that way. According to documents obtained just recently, that was one of the reasons why this commission signed off on the contract back in 2015. The document states, the Dominion voting system includes a wireless modem to transmit results. Yes, I guess it is hooked up to the internet. That would make all of our votes vulnerable to attack. That isn't all about Dominion. We'll have some of our other speakers talk about that. Finally, mail-in votes. Shortly after the election, I had a new person move into my house, someone I had never had the pleasure to meet. I started getting letters with this person's name on it. I was sure that this new person was just moved into the neighborhood mailing list. The only problem is that person never lived at my house. In fact, that person died in 2015 and is now living and maybe even voting at my house. There's a new term for this type of voter. They are called phantom voters. Mail-in voting is an invitation for cheating, and everyone knows it. My conclusion is that our elections need to be more secure, not more complicated and technical. We need to renew the trust of the voters in the voting process, and the first step is to get rid of the Dominion voting system. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Next, we have Carrie Watkins of St. Cloud, also speaking on Dominion.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kari Watkins. I reside in Sherburne County District 4. I would like to bring attention to the vulnerabilities of Dominion voting machines. But let me say these vulnerabilities are not limited to Dominion, but extend across the board to all electronic voting systems. In fact, the three major voting systems use the same software, Smartmatic. One vulnerability has to do with the wireless modem included in the system. As Gary mentioned, in 2015, the request for board action, the Dominion machines used by Sherburne County do have these modems. During a Nye County, Nevada Commissioners meeting, two cyber forensic experts, Mark Cook and Russ Ramsland, both explained how the wireless modems could be activated remotely. And so while the modems may not be turned on by our election staff, and they may not be aware, somebody remotely can turn those on and make the machines work, hooked up to a wireless system. Mark and Russ both also speak about the lack of security in this software and the backdoor access that make the machines vulnerable to attacks. And I have provided the link to that meeting. You can watch and see how they explain that. I also want to be clear that these vulnerabilities are not known or detectable to or by county and election staff. It is very difficult to detect if someone logged into the machine, as the logs that would show that activity have very short memory, and they are, sorry, the memory can be quickly copied over. As an example of a vulnerability to hackers, in 2019, there was a lot of talk about these machines being able to be hacked into, and at a DEF CON conference, hackers were able to break into voting machines during their conference. J. Alex Halderman, a professor of computer science and engineering at the University of Michigan, has described numerous security vulnerabilities in Dominion's ICX, including flaws that will allow attackers to install malicious software on the machine. Halderman's 25,000-word document was sealed by a judge in a civil court case in Georgia, so we don't get that full document, but I do have a document declaration from him that does describe briefly those vulnerabilities. This vulnerability extends to the hybrid machines such as Dominion's ImageCast Evolution Hybrid, which are able to add fraudulent votes without detection, according to Professor of Statistics Philip B. Stark of UC Berkeley. My time is up shortly, but I have included copies of the articles I've referenced, and I can email you the links for you to review the information if you desire.
Thank you. If you want to just email them to me, I can forward them to the board.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Please remove these machines and go to paper ballots and hand counting. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for sharing.
You want? Thank you.
Next, we have Steve Nelson of Elk River speaking on budget.
Good morning. My name is Steve Nelson. I'm a resident of Sherburne County and a business operator here for the last 10 years. Mechanical engineer by trade. I've been a corporate level executive, adding up the time, almost 30 years now. So as such, I feel it incumbent upon you to remind you of your fiduciary duties as commissioners for this county and as the duly elected representatives to take to heart the information that may be brought before you today. It's shocking to me. If you had asked me 2 years ago if this was possible, I would have told you no. But I also know machines, I know equipment, I know computers, and I know that they do what you tell them to do, and I know that there can be things and glitches and even intentional software placed in them that can go off on tangents, and that is, I think, what we are seeing. I have a whole packet of financial stuff. You guys have all of this. I will give it to you. It's just from 2015 on that I was able to get. By the way, your current budget way that it is shown is about as clear as coal. Not that the stuff is bad, it's just hard to read. So I would suggest that you reorganize that a bit. What I find is a board, a commission, and an auditor that's doing their best to try to ensure that we're having free and fair elections. The money shows that you're allocating resources to that. But to that effect, I find that your budget is probably lacking. We're hearing down in Dakota County that it's going to cost them close to $500,000 to replace their systems. I note that Ms. Arnold last year put in for a server upgrade, which I certainly appreciate. I had to do that inside of my own business last year. We had to pay about $30-some-odd thousand in server upgrades and software upgrades for us to be able to continue doing business into this year. So I certainly appreciate those needs. What I'm saying is, though, that you need to be cautious of who you align with. You are responsible, you have a fiduciary duty, but aligning with Dominion and with the exposure of some of these problems with these machines, you put yourselves at risk. And I'm only here to remind you that you need to take that very seriously, because it's not their name on these elections, it's yours. I have 2 letters in here. One is from the New York State Board of Elections. I have another report from the United States Election Assistance Commission.
Sir, your 3 minutes are up.
Thank
If you
you.
can wrap up. Thank
That
you.
was just issued in March of 30th of this year, that point out to these problems. So I will give this to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Brett Collier of Big Lake speaking on electronic voting machines.
Good morning, Brett Collier, Big Lake Township. What I'm going to present is a resolution that I've drafted to suspend the use of Dominion voting machines. Whereas Minnesota Statute 206.58, Subdivision 3, authorization of use states that counties, the governing body of a county, may provide for the use of an electronic voting system in one or more precinct of the county at all elections. The governing body of the municipality shall give approval before an electronic voting system may be adopted or used in the municipality under the authority of this section. No system may be adopted or used unless it has been approved by the Secretary of State pursuant to Section 206.57. And given that the electronic voting systems equipment currently used in Sherburne County, which was purchased in 2015, utilizes an operating system that is no longer supported by the manufacturer in terms of security or maintenance, thereby increasing the possibility of unwanted accessing and manipulation of code. And given that the general public, based upon numerous reports and articles, is wary of and has lost faith in electronic, especially Dominion, voting equipment, and given that it is reported that Dominion voting equipment are designed to be capable of giving a weight to votes cast, if not simply adjusting the numbers of votes per candidate, and given that the cost to update or replace and recertify the current electronic voting equipment could be many times more than the cost of the performance of a simple physical hand count, it is therefore resolved that the authorized use of all Dominion Democracy Suite version 4.14E voting systems equipment is suspended for the 2022 election season, as well as any attempt to mitigate to a newer version. I'll hand a copy out this to you folks. I also request that we have a open public hearing on this item in the near future. And also to let you know, we have been collecting petitions from the general public asking that Dominion voting equipment not be used. Thank you.
Thank you. We leave that with us here. Okay. Next, then.
Next, we have Eric von Macklin. If you could please state your residency when you get up to the podium. He is also speaking on Dominion.
Hi, my name is Eric von Macklin. Thank you, commissioners, for this. I live down in Hennepin County. And it was said recently by Jeffrey O'Donnell, who's a data analyst with about 40 years of experience, who was contracted by the Tina Peters legal team over in Mesa County, Colorado, to analyze the before and after forensic images of the Dominion systems in their county, very similar to the Dominion systems which are used here. He said, not since the Manhattan Project had so many experts, whether they be cybersecurity, whether they be network and IT, whether they be data analysts like himself, not since the Manhattan Project has so many experts focused on a singular problem. Now, what is that problem? Well, it's the rigged and stolen election of 2020. And we've heard a bit from the other speakers on some of the details of these particular systems. There has been some discussion regarding voter ID and the issues of absentee ballots with the consent decrees, and numerous other cases of abnormalities and improprieties, even abuse if we look next door with True to Vote's reporting on Wisconsin's ballot trafficking. But I would submit to you that those are all side issues when we consider that these election machines, with the back doors that Mark Cook described in Nye County last month at their county commissioners meeting, with the back doors that are available to ultimately select up and down the ballot the candidates that will represent us in public office. And so it is critical that the machines are focused upon and the due diligence is done. Now, it's a bit awkward me coming before you, not knowing with the internet how much you already know. But what I would submit to you is that you're in a great position to gather that information to make an informed decision and also be a standard for Minnesota. You could be the commissioners of a county, the first one of all 87 in Minnesota, to make the decision to move away from election machines of any kind going forward in an election. And what a wonderful thing that would be. You would go down in history, frankly, for making that decision. So I wish you well and Godspeed to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Next, we have Lori Lang of Zimmerman speaking on ICE.
I'm short. I didn't have to tell you all. Good morning. My name is Lori Lang, and I am a 17-year resident of Orac Township, an 11-year member of the Union Congregational Church United Church of Christ in Elk River, and a pretty new member to SARI, the Sanctuary and Resistance to Injustice group. I was one of those 100-plus people who were freezing their fannies off at the vigil outside on March 8th. And we had, well, as you know, they came in with our letter to you and to Sheriff Brott, as we are seeking an end to Sherburne County's contract with ICE. And we had 4 speakers, 3 of them faith leaders, who came in to speak, but because there was an overabundance of speakers that day, 2 of them did not get to speak. And I have the permission of one of them to read his statement, if I may, for you today. My name is Reverend Dr. Curtis DeYoung, and I am the CEO of the Minnesota Council of Churches. You know that our allies were outside on March 8th, more than 100 people. You have met them before when they filled this room on previous occasions. Our demands to end the ICE contract and all collaborations with ICE are well known, as are our direct actions, which will continue. In the words of Reverend Martin Luther King, why direct action? Why vigils, marches, and so forth? Isn't discussion a better path? You are right to call for talks. Indeed, this is the purpose of direct action. Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and establish creative tension so that this county's elected officials, who have consistently imposed oppression on the undocumented, are forced to confront the issue. I confess that I am not afraid of tension. I have worked and preached against violent tension, but there is a type of constructive nonviolent tension that is necessary for growth. The Minnesota Council of Churches has 27 member communities representing 17 Christian denominations. Statewide, we represent nearly 1 million constituents. We also have strong partnerships with the Roman Catholic Church and Unitarians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, and Hindus. The contract between Sherburne County and Immigration and Customs Enforcement violates the values that undergird our faith because the outcome of this contract is the unjust treatment of immigrants. The prophet Malachi in the Bible proclaims, "Thus says God Almighty, I will be quick to testify against those who deprive immigrants among you of justice." From Malachi chapter 3, verse 5. Therefore, we as faith communities will continue to witness for justice for immigrants until Sherburne County abandons all plans to expand or renew the current contract with ICE, phases out the existing contract and releases, not transfers, all currently detained immigrants, and resolves that Sherburne County law enforcement will pledge they will no longer collaborate with or detain individuals on behalf of ICE.
Your 3 minutes are up.
All right, thank you so much for listening. I was done.
Thank you.
And I'll put it back up for the next taller person.
Lastly, we have
One more.
Casey Mahon of Elk River, I believe also speaking on voting.
Good morning. My name is Casey Mahon. I am a resident of Elk River, which is the seat of Sherburne County. Unlike many of the people who are here today who came very well prepared, I just found out about this issue yesterday in an ad in the newspaper. So I don't come armed with as many facts, depending on where you get those facts from, et cetera. But I'm a retired Air Force officer. I served our country for 20 years, and I retired in 1997. I'm also an independent voter, so I don't take issues side with one or the other political party. What I try to do is to vote on the issues based on the facts. I'm here just to speak my views based on information that I was able to find within a matter of hours. So I'm not as well as equipped as some of the other folks. I saw this ad in the local newspaper by the group Midwest Swamp Watch. And so I find it, based on some of the allegations that were in this about removing the Dominion voting machines, I thought, well, I need to get a little smart on this. So I went to their website. And I wanted to try to find as many facts, substantiated facts, as I could. First one that I believe that I found was that this group is not even here in Sherburne County. It's based out of South Dakota, which I believe still gives them the right to come, but it surprised me. I went through their website, and here's a few examples of what I saw. And I'm thinking Sherburne County. A map that shows voter irregularities in neighboring counties, but not Sherburne County. Links to what is called the Minnesota Voter Validator, and that's a new word for me, Minnesota SOS November 29th ballot checks. When I clicked on both of those, they went to an internal site on that website instead of going to a valid site such as the Secretary of State. What it did, it takes you to two different pages that wants to collect your information. I was no way going to be doing that because who knows where that information was going or how it would be used. Under the latest news, there's no information regarding Sherburne County. And then they have a 2020 congressional and legislative district map and absentee ballots, neither of which shows Sherburne County. Commissioners, I also went in and looked, and data shows that 32.5% of the 2020 election voted Democratic. 65.1% voted Republican. Only 4.4% voters like myself voted independent. To my knowledge, all the Republican incumbents and perhaps candidates won at the Sherburne County level.
Sir, your 3 minutes are up if you want to wrap up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just asking that you look at the facts, share those facts with the public, and if there is an issue, correct it. If there's not, please move forward in the best interest of our county and our country.
Okay, thank you.
I took my name off the list. May I introduce the petitions?
If you want. Terry, if you want to give them to me, I can distribute them to the county board.
I'm not going to hand them in. I wanted to tell them what it was.
If you want to give her another minute, call chair.
So how long would,
You just add her to the speaker list, just do 3 minutes.
okay, so you can have a 3-minute.
Hi, Terry Dickinson. I'm in Region 2, Rayanne's region. And we have been collecting petitions to remove the Dominion machines and go back to hand counting paper ballots in our precincts. And we want to depend on the poll pads, the poll books, not the poll pads, that give real-time updates to the Secretary of State's office and the television news. We are asking that you please schedule a public hearing so we can present evidence that will convince you not to invest another estimated $600,000 more in the Dominion-type equipment. And we're asking you to please do not get a quickie certification before the constituents have an opportunity to discuss these issues with our county commissioners. I do have a question on number 5. It says review and approve commissioner and manual warrants. I don't know if that has anything to do with a quickie certification tomorrow regarding the Dominion software or not, but I didn't hear any review or discussion during this board meeting. And also, we're having on May 3rd, we're having a rally out front before the county commissioners meeting. Let's make it a celebration. Let's make this a celebration that our county commissioners listened to the voices of the constituents, heard what we had to say, evaluated the evidence, and stood for liberty with the constituents of Sherburne County. I appreciate your time and look forward to a public hearing or workshop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just would like to ask our administrator if he could refer these questions about the voting issues to appropriate authorities.
Sure, we'll review the information received today.
Okay, thank you.
And the ICE issue, yeah, sorry, there was a
Yeah.
second issue.
Okay, so now we can move on to our regular agenda. And we can start with item number 5.1, which is to consider the approval of Minnesota Veterans and Veterans Trust Fund grant.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I'm going to ask Bruce Price to come forward, and he has a couple of folks, or maybe just one person to speak at the podium. We wanted to highlight some great news about a grant we just received.
Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm going to yield to Mike Schutte, who is my deputy veteran service officer, in reference to this next topic, which we'd like to present to you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. The Veteran Service Office is seeking approval to purchase two 2020 Toyota Sienna hybrid all-wheel drive vans to support our transportation program. Over the last 6 years, we have saved our annual budget $62,597. We also secured a grant from Veterans for Veterans in the amount of $10,000. This gives us a total of $72,500.
No, in my 8 years here, this used to be, for lack of a better term, a dog and pony show, where when we had 9 supervisors, we would parade them up. Commissioner Schmeesing remembers, but we have double that. So we're trying to spare you a little bit, and so rather than just myself giving it, as opposed to 16 supervisors, we have our 4 division managers to give you a brief overview of their assigned areas. But first, I want to give a special thanks to our new planner, Jody Hirong. I don't even think she's here, but she was wearing her board appropriate clothes just in case. And then who really pulled this all together, as well as Teresa, our administrative assistant for formatting and proofing. So just a real quick overview as you get the annual report handed to you. Health and Human Services is the county's second largest department. We have 213 staff, 16 units, 5 divisions, and a $26 million budget. In 2021, boy, was that I think a fun year coming out of COVID and still in COVID. We really operationalized innovation. We really focused our activities on meeting people where they are at. Doing so created a lot of process changes because our practice no longer mirrored how to meet people where they're at or even the evolving needs of our community. And so we really took a focus on partnership. So again, the Mental Health Action Team, FACES, the Children with Incarcerated Parents Initiative, POINT team, which is a new internal team, stands for Prevention, Outreach, and Integration Team, and then Housing, really focused on innovation, so activities with the bus beyond just vaccinations, as well as our centralized intake, and then our commitment to equitable approaches for all Sherburne County residents. So with that, I will invite our division managers up to tell you a brief snapshot of their areas. So I think Gina's first. Go ahead.
Good morning, Board and Madam Chair. I just manage the Economic Supports Division, which consists of child support and the income maintenance unit that administers the public assistance programs. Last year proved to be another challenging or fun year as workers navigated through waivers. And in 2021, we saw the most activity in my division surrounding healthcare, adding an average of 82 medical assistance cases per month for an average of, for an 11.35% increase and an overall increase of 30.13% in healthcare cases since the beginning of the pandemic. We ended the year at an all-time high of 9,705 cases, consisting of 18,694 enrollees. To ensure that these enrollees had continuous healthcare coverage, waivers dictated that we could not close any case except under very limited circumstances, which included death, somebody moving out of state, or a voluntary request from a client. Once the public health emergency ends, we will have a 60-day off-ramping period, and then we will once again be required to do eligibility redetermination over a 12-month period. Workers will have the monumental effort of redetermining these cases on those 18,694 enrollees. Additionally, there's been an increase of 5.61% in our food support cases. And again, since the beginning of the pandemic, we saw an increase of 26.63% overall. In September of 2021, we began off-ramping of some of the waivers that were put in place in these program areas, and we will continue to off-ramp in this year. In addition to the pandemic, where we saw the rise in our applicants, part of the increase in applications might also be attributed to a new user-friendly online application tool called MN Benefits, which replaced a more antiquated Apply MN tool that was previously used. In the spring of 2021, we were excited to be one of 13 counties to pilot MN Benefits, and we saw the average time it took for somebody to apply for food support or cash assistance go from 1 hour to, on average, to about 12 minutes. The new platform was released statewide in November of 2021. And then finally, in regards to efforts to expand integrated services, lack of childcare was identified as a barrier to parents and caregivers coming into the government center. In August of 2021, we contracted with YMCA of the North to provide free on-site childcare for children 6 weeks to 12 years of age, while parents or caregivers conducted business in the government center. From September to December, we had 50 unique visits, and since that time, we've only seen those numbers increase as parents and caregivers become more and more aware of the service that we provide. And in addition to reducing barriers in childcare, we were aware that transportation presented another barrier to clients coming to our office to speak with staff, drop off paperwork, or apply for programs. And so we were pleased when Cashwise East partnered with us and agreed to allow us to park our wellness bus in their parking lot in the St. Cloud area. We're there twice per month, and we're serving those that are homeless. We've served veterans and families in need, and we're excited to see this effort continue and expand more in this year. Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm happy to provide a few Public Health Division updates. So I'm going to start with just our WIC program. For the last 4 years, there's been some slow, steady growth in our participation. 75% of those are infants and children, and 25% women who are pregnant, postpartum, or breastfeeding. With those WIC benefits, our community participants have put over $1 million back into our local vendors, redeeming those WIC foods, which is very exciting. And we had about an 87% breastfeeding initiation rate for Sherburne County, which is well above what the state is at right now. So kudos to our WIC program. We also had 175 pounds of produce delivered to the care food shelf from our WIC garden this last year, which was very exciting for the first year, and we've had a lot of knowledge around growing our own vegetables and fruits. A little highlight about our statewide health improvement program grant. Not all of our grants allowed for the flexibility that this grant did, but they allowed us to shift our duties from some of our SHIP activities to assist with our COVID response. And so many of our SHIP staff assisted with the Emergency Operations Center, supported our community hotline, provided services for our essential services and foods back to our community. And so we were very pleased that SHIP did allow that for our staff. For our public health emergency preparedness, we had 154 COVID vaccination clinics, 41 of those offsite in the community trying to reach those populations who may have had barriers to get vaccinated. We delivered over 17,000 vaccination doses, and we supplied 82 families with essential services, which mainly were groceries and support for medications. And lastly, just a little information about home visits. So many of our nurses were pulled to assist with COVID vaccination clinics, but they also really provided support to our families that had been part of our family home visiting and did outreach to new families based on time factors. We saw a lot of ebb and flow with our family home visiting program as nurses were pulled back into COVID response as new age groups became available to get vaccinated or boosters were authorized. But overall, that growth has really been stable in 2021, and we are looking at very promising numbers for 2022 as families have been very accepting to having nurses come back out to the home. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Tony Masters. I am the manager of the Adult and Disability Services Division. So just want to highlight a couple of trends that we've seen over the course of the last year. As you can probably see in the report, we're still showing quite a bit of growth that's occurring in our adult and disability services programs. In the MnChoices assessment area, which determines eligibility for a variety of home and community-based services, we saw an 11.5% growth in 2020. If we look at a 3-year trend, we're looking at I believe it's 33% over 3 years that we've seen in the number of assessments that are being completed on an annual basis. Our elderly services was up about 28% last year, but that was more of an anomaly as they were covering part of a contract that public health had been fulfilling. In order for public health to do their vaccine clinics, our elderly service area took over that contract during that time. For our programs with individuals with disabilities, we saw a 9% increase in the number of those that were served. If I look at a 3-year trend, we're looking at 26% growth in that service area. You'll also see that revenue was up over the course of this period of time. Over the last year, 4.5% increase in Medicaid dollars that were being drawn down on these programs. And over the course of the last three years, we've seen a 23% increase in those program areas. Adult mental health cases were up 17% last year, though we did see a plateau with the number of civil commitment cases that we're seeing. So we see quite a bit, I think it was a 25% increase in 2020 from 2019, but 2021 there was really a plateau with civil commitments. So more of those cases are voluntary as we're trying to increase our outreach efforts and become more preventative in nature. We also saw an increase of about 7%, my apologies, on adult protection reports. In large part, that was due to financial institutions becoming mandated reporters when they suspected financial exploitation of seniors. So those are my updates. If you have any questions, let me know.
Great update. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Meg Carreveau, the manager for Child and Family Services Division. Updates for 2021 for our area was that we had an increase in child protection assessments in 2021, but we still have not reached pre-pandemic levels, which we're happy about. We have continued to show a commitment to family group decision-making, which is because of our commitment to work with families about how to co-create, how to move forward, because we know families know best what they need. We had 61 family group decision-making conferences in 2021. In our area, we had the creation of the licensing intake team, which is our hub of integrated service delivery. They do centralized intake for all of social services. They also do licensing for adult and child foster care and child care, and they also do prevention services. We've continued to see a pattern of a decrease in child care licensing homes, which is a 5-year pattern, and we believe it's due to an increase in regulations and requirements of licensing, and we also think that there's likely an impact from COVID. One impressive statistic in my area that I wanted to share with you is the requirement from the state that children be placed with family when in out-of-home placement at a rate of 35.7% or higher. And here at Sherburne County, children in out-of-home placement, 65.9% of them are placed with relatives, which is a pretty impressive statistic and really demonstrates our commitment to family engagement. Our children's mental health area has seen a very modest decrease in case numbers, but those cases are more complex, and the severity of needs for children has only increased due to pandemic issues. And our out-of-home placement numbers have remained stable. This is due to our use of family group decision-making, signs of safety, and really engaging family supports and using rigorous safety planning. However, our cost of out-of-home placements have drastically increased. They increased $500,000 in 1 year, and they increased across all areas. So that includes group homes, correctional facility placements, family foster care, residential treatment centers, and supervised independent living. One thing that we have done in 2021 was we added a position through ARPA funding to try and address this, and that position is in part doing rapid response family meetings and intensive relative search to try and find all of the creative solutions to decreasing more restrictive placements. Lastly, COVID has drastically changed our truancy response, and we have continued to move forward in how we do truancy, and one thing we have seen as a positive is that separating our truancy response into 3 different steps has increased positive outcomes. We have seen that many kids, by the time they reach step 2, have turned things around and don't need to move to step 3, which is the court response. So we've seen a very positive outcome from that.
Thank you.
So you guys have the annual report, so I invite you to look it over at your leisure, contact any one of us if you have any questions, but I think you probably heard a common thread of increases. Again, being good stewards of taxpayer dollars and resources is primary concern, and so you'll note that we've done a lot of shifting of resources within our department to be more prevention focused, to really embrace innovation and efficiencies, and so we'll continue to change our practice both to be client-centric as well as to be innovative and good stewards. So again, if you have any questions now, we'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I invite you to contact any one of us at any time.
Anybody have any? Yes, go
Just a
ahead.
comment. I don't have a question. I will definitely read the report, and thank you all for that. The depth and the breadth of the issues and the people and the lives that you touch just is overwhelming to me at times. And you all know that I look for prevention in any way, and also recognize that sometimes it's hard to quantify that with dollars and cents, black and white on paper. But old social worker here, we know that that's key in making lives better for people. And I believe making communities better and healthier, and in the end, saving taxpayer dollars. And you're all shaking your heads. Yes, so I really appreciate that. The threads of prevention in your report are so clear, and how you work so hard to address the needs of our community today. So thank you.
Yeah. And I wanted to comment too. You go ahead first.
Well, I just, this is my last year. Is there a possibility we could have 2 annual reports this year?
Only if you want. I heard that was a thing in previous.
I just wanted to say thanks to all of you and all that you do. You work in a gray area, and everything is fine as long as everything is fine. And you make decisions about where children go, about where adults go, and you never get in trouble until you're wrong. And you can have a high percentage of being right, but there's going to be times when it happens that goes the other way. And I really have empathy for all of you in your jobs. You have to live with that sometimes, and I really appreciate you doing it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to comment on, I so much appreciate that you embrace the innovation aspect, how you can deliver services more effectively for the clients, And so I appreciate that aspect, and I know that the wellness van goes up to St. Cloud to help with that idea. I was just curious, is there anything out there? I'm going to go back to when I was at a conference in regards to innovation of using technology where someone could be up in our St. Cloud area, go to an area where there's a video conference booth like, and then they can call in to where the main area is. I just think that that would be tremendously helpful even for residents that might live 10 miles from the government center but don't have access to a car, or even, you know, so I'm just curious if there's anything out there in that technology to explore, because I think that would really be innovative in delivering services.
Well, you all know, just like the rest of us, we live in a state supervised, county administered system, and so we don't have a lot of flexibility over the how we receive. But at the same time, really one of the silver linings of COVID was the flexibilities that were provided to us by waivers, and so MFIP is a great example. Our family investment program, where prior families needed to come in for a face-to-face interview, and there was no wiggle room on that. But one of the waivers that I believe has now been made permanent is now families can do that via phone, and so they no longer need to physically come in. And so I think there is those flexibilities, and again, we're always looking at technology to improve ease. As you all know, again, we're working with very antiquated state systems, and so we're trying on our end to find some technology solutions, and one of which is through AODocs and the Google solution, and we have high hopes for that, and hoping that that can just expand in terms of interoperability and efficiency. So more to come on that.
And I do thank you all for just the tremendous work that you do. And I agree with Felix. I would not want to be in any one of your shoes at any time. So thank you very much.
Go ahead.
So just one other comment about, the wellness van has been so great, especially during COVID, the use of that, but now using it ongoing. And I'm hearing rumblings that it might be coming a little bit to Zimmerman. So
Working on it.
Stay tuned.
We're saving up gas money.
Do you guys remember where Zimmerman is? Do I need to point Zimmerman on the map to you?
Yes.
And I would just like to comment that I just think your group has done marvelous things in despite of very challenging times with COVID. And I just want to thank you for all your hard work, because I know how important that has been to us as our community has really benefited from all of your hard work. And I happen to be on a committee at the state level, COVID-19 HHS, and we're looking at all of the wonderful things that were able to be accomplished during the waiver period, and looking at how some of those things can become part of our future so that we can continue on with that. Because we've learned, I think, so much that flexibility in some areas would be more beneficial for everyone. And so I think that, you know, the work that you've done is part of what is showing at the state level that different things can be, you know, improved through different outcomes. I mean, have better outcomes with a little bit different process that they can allow us to do. So thank you so much, and looking forward to continuing to see all this wonderful things go forward. Thank you.
Appreciate the kind words and the support of our board. It really does mean a lot, so thank you.
Yeah.
We should also ask Gina how she likes Sherburne County, so. Or not Gina, sorry.
Meg's our trans.
Meg, sorry. I know. I meant Meg, sorry. I was. So have we?
People from other counties is our mantra.
Have we Sherburnized you yet? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Sherburnize, that's an interesting term. I might use that once in a while.
We use it frequently. Yes.
Okay. So I think we're going 5.4.
Yep.
And we're going to consider the American Rescue Plan Act update and recommended approvals and expenditures. And here we have Dan with us. Hello.
Good morning. This week we have two ARPA biweekly expenses for a total of $5,815.19. So looking for a motion to approve those two expenses.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the two bi-weekly expenditures that are listed here, and that's both of them, right? So it's the under 50 and the over 50?
Correct.
Okay,
We'll do
both of them
the under
together.
first.
Okay, is it, and we had a,
We're doing the under first.
Correct,
right?
and the over will be a separate motion.
Separately.
okay, so, okay, they're separately. So we've had a motion made and seconded to approve the under 50,000. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
And the second over 50,000 is in the sheriff's office, and I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Merrick to explain that cost.
Good morning. We are looking to get reimbursed for overtime costs in the jail related to COVID and staffing shortages. These costs are from January 1st through March 31st of 2022, and the amount is $137,729.96, and this is for a total of 3,833 hours of overtime.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Motion's been made to approve. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the request. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also wanted to give you a quick update on the Community Resource Investment Grant Program. We are still vetting some of the applications that came in the last week, so we don't have any recommendations. I know it was your desire to have all those approved at once, so we hope to have those on May 3rd for you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Dan.
May 3rd,
Thank you.
that's coming up. Thank you. Okay, now we can move on to item 5.5, which is to consider the resolution to undertake redistricting of county commissioner districts following decennial census. And Bruce is going to be presenting this.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. And then in addition, County Auditor, Treasurer, and County Attorney are here, who are part of the redistricting team, along with Dan and Andrew. I don't see Ken, but we can grab him if we need him. And also Brett, our GIS coordinator, has been helping as well.
Okay.
Just a quick update, and I apologize for the lack of technology. We won't show the map again, but we had the public hearing 2 weeks ago as required, and at that time the board laid over for consideration the redistricting plan. Based upon the actions of the townships and the cities, we only have option one at this time, which is essentially the current commissioner districts with some changes in the Elk River precincts. So the requirement is that the county board take action by the 26th of April. You don't have a meeting scheduled. We could obviously schedule a special meeting. We are still waiting for one final action on precincts, which we anticipate will not happen until the 25th. So the resolution has been constructed in such a way that if the board wants to act today, you can do that, making it effective the 26th. And if then anything significantly changes, we'll have prepared for the possibility of needing a special meeting probably early in the afternoon on the 26th, and I'll send out some information on that. Everything fits in the statutory requirements. We also finished up the draft redistricting plan for you, which you received last evening, and the resolution assumes undertaking that activity. The only other thing then to do either today or if you do have a special meeting then would be for you to determine how you would like to select the actual terms of the 5 commissioner districts. So with that, we'll answer any questions you have or see the discussion on the will of the board.
Okay. Is there any?
Help me understand. We can make a motion and move on this today. And then that would be, we wouldn't need a special meeting unless there was some change to the district.
Correct. We have good faith, all of the information we need. Diane?
We did receive a draft resolution from the township, and where they're going to be just re-establishing their current districts and not changing anything. So that's what I've been updated with.
Madam Chair, I'd make that resolution.
So do we need to put a date in the resolution?
Yep. Yeah, we just fill in the resolution today, so.
Okay. So, so that what the statement is here is what you made.
Right.
Okay, is there a second?
Just one quick question. So is this going to be like in two motions then because of having to address the length of terms?
What I'd suggest is if the board is interested, is to make a motion to approve the resolution, have it seconded, and then during your discussion, we can fill in the blanks with you, yeah.
Okay,
So does someone want to second the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded, and now we can move into discussion. Any,
So it seems like we would, go ahead, Felix, do you have a question?
Well, you're talking, now really what we have to do is fill in the blanks. in
Terms.
of terms.
Yeah.
And we laid out for the board two options. Option one is to just leave the terms as they currently are for the two that are up, and those would then be four-year terms, and then you can designate that we just stay with the same rotation and we fill it in. Or if you don't feel that way, you can designate different terms. I'm assuming you're probably going to do like most counties and want to do 3 4-year terms and 2 2-year terms. But I think under statute, you could probably do 3 2-year terms and 2 4-year terms. So that's probably the flexibility.
So the given would be that Rayanne's district and Felix's district would be 4-year terms. So those are, but not necessarily. It doesn't have to be that way.
But I think that we would want to, at least in my opinion, how we end up, because this is the normal cycle for these two seats. I think it would be beneficial to keep it that normal cycle. And the only things that are changing are the two redefined districts. And to keep that, because I think it's highly important that you have a 3 and a 2 somehow. We're not
Yeah.
everybody, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it has to be 3
Yep.
and 2.
yeah,
I
Yep.
get that. I feel strongly that, that we consider some of us in those, you know, and consider who's running and who's not, or those types of issues also. So knowing Felix is retiring,
Yeah, I would like to see mine stay a 4-year term. I feel pretty strongly about that because 10 years ago, during the last redistricting, I ended up with 3, had to run through times in 4 years. So I just, yeah, we ended up drawing straws and, you know, and I just think that's unfair. And there will be a new person in this chair next year. And I would like to see them have a 4-year term. So if what we can have, really, we only need one person to take a 2-year term, right?
yes. We would only have to.
we'll explain that just so that if you have a 4-year and you have a 4-year, then there's 3 of us left.
Just,
Yeah, but just, and then, yeah, because there's, so there's
Mine's
Tim
a
and
t-
I,
Mine's a 2-year, so if
yeah.
Felix and Rayanne's districts are 4-year, then yes, we could.
And you have
always-
2 years left.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to, but then the other 2, District 1 and District 5, is that Tim's district? 3. Okay. 1 and 3 would,
We only need one of those to be a
2-year.
2-year term.
And it is difficult to be discussing this here today without Jim.
Right.
Is this something that, do we have to make this decision now, or can we wait on this one till we have the full board?
Well, we'd have to do a special meeting of the board if you wanted to not make the decision today.
And I agree with what Felix is saying. I think we need that full input, especially when one of the commissioners that is not here. Right.
I mean, he's,
impacted.
2-year term, I mean.
well,
Yes, that's what he is.
Sorry, Tim.
yeah. I mean, I
Not
think if you did want to act today, while the vote would not include him, you know, I could text him since he's checked in and see if he has a strong opinion.
No.
No, Kathy won't let me,
We got a
okay.
big, we got a big no on that one.
I didn't say you could call it and discuss.
Well, and I think, I'm sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
So we would have a special meeting on the 26th.
Yeah.
To determine the terms.
So can we finalize the motion as of the 26th and then decide that piece later?
No, I think you just table it.
Put it on hold?
Table it, yeah.
Table it.
I'll withdraw my motion. That's okay.
I am fine.
Okay, so then we don't table it, we just withdraw it.
Yeah, regardless, staff is going to work on Tuesday morning just to verify everything one more time before we file it. So I would suggest a late morning or early afternoon meeting, so either 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. right after lunch.
Yeah, I think it'd be just cleaner to have the full board discussion.
Yeah, especially since Tim would be
Right.
possibly impacted, so.
Are you, is everybody, can you check your calendars real quick? Are you available 1 o'clock next Tuesday?
Yes.
The only thing is reason that he is not here, could he be at another meeting in a week, or we could do it online?
We can't.
If we,
Yeah.
You can't vote online.
well, if we post it, you
If we
can.
post it early
Oh,
enough.
that's right.
We have to follow the state requirements, but we have
We
time to
have
do it.
post it, how long?
Why are we doing it in the afternoon?
3 days.
Just so that we have time Tuesday morning to go through the last actions of the townships and make sure that everything is technically correct. Again, if you want to go morning, I'd suggest 11, just because we have to dot the i's and cross the t's, and
Yeah,
Do we need to vote on it, or just agree to 11?
well, if you table it to a date, time certain, and direct staff to post a special meeting notice, that would be.
Okay,
Well, the motion's been,
yeah.
Withdrawn.
And so for this, we just agree to a meeting.
Well,
Or do we
once you make a motion to table the item, and then second
can
it.
make a motion to table.
What's that?
You withdrew
We
yours.
withdrew.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you made the motion, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, so technically, then we'd be looking for that motion then to table it and direct staff to post that meeting for next Tuesday.
Well, okay,
At
we've
11.
already withdrawn the meeting, so we wouldn't table it, we just vote to have a meeting, a special meeting.
Yeah.
Well,
Or,
it's more of a Robert's Rules issue, but
Yeah.
technically you want to table it. A motion to table is non-negotiable, non-debatable. So if there's a motion to table the item and it's seconded, then you just make a vote to table it. So that's, since he withdrew his first
Discussion on
motion.
a motion to table. The other motion's been withdrawn.
Right.
I will make a motion to table to a time certain at 11 a.m. April 26th.
And I'll second that.
okay, so a motion has been made and seconded to table the meeting until the 26th at 11 a.m. There's no discussion on these kinds of, okay. So we just go into a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
Your government at work, folks.
And then,
Sometimes it gets cumbersome.
so we'll,
Sometimes.
so we'll post the special meeting notice, and just in case, we'll go through the electronic participation notice as well.
Yeah.
For a worst-case scenario.
Perfect.
Okay, so now I think we can move on to commissioner correspondence. Who would like to go first? It's between April 6th and April 18th.
Madam Chair, I'm ready.
Okay.
April 6th, I had a meeting with a group of constituents in discussion of election, and also had a meeting with One Watershed, One Plan. That meeting was with staff. Barb and I attended that one. April 7th, MnDOT District 3 ATP meeting. The 14th, an APO meeting in St. Cloud. And the 18th, we had a CMRP Executive Board meeting to go over the upcoming agenda for the April 28th meeting. Also attended a groundbreaking ceremony in my district last night for what is referred to as the I-4 Industrial Park. And that is an area in the city that they will allow steel structure style buildings with the siding that is aluminum. I can't say other than one.
Good job.
And then, so, and I did talk, I mentioned to Bruce to keep an eye on that MnDOT redistribution formula. And then I also would just like to put out there that I would appreciate if we would look for a way to consider some of the, or the public hearing information that we have been getting and asking for some way, like the gentleman who got up and spoke, that he just doesn't feel that he's hearing enough information coming from the county as well. So if we could figure out something, I would appreciate that. I think the public would appreciate that as well. And I'm just throwing that out there. And that's it for me.
Okay.
I'll go. The sixth we had, was that the Association of Townships?
Mhm.
Okay, I was there, MCAT Board of Directors on the 8th, on the 15th, at an AMC Board of Directors, or Micah was on the 8th. Micah was on the 13th. So, MCAT on the 8th. The 15th was Micah, and the 13th was MCAT, and then I came in and had a meeting here with the folks.
Okay, I had a futures planning meeting. Our futures group is meeting in May, and we're doing a similar tribal county relations section, which is really exciting. So I'll let you know about more of that as we do it. Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, I had a community and government committee meeting and a workforce development meeting. The Princeton Airport has an annual meeting with Princeton City Council, so I met with the two of them to discuss budget and future and projects for this next year. Met with representatives from Livonia Township and the City of Zimmerman as we continue to look at ordinance changes for solid waste. Met with the Princeton Chamber at one of their lunch and learns, have been to a couple of those lately. Micah was on for the Micah meeting. Had my first NACO leadership gathering with the new cohort for leadership. Soil and water meeting last week, and then also was at a shack meeting, which really, they did the first part of the shack meeting was an orientation for newer members, and it really was good. And I've requested that our public health person, Nicole, possibly bring that orientation to the board so we can all understand what shack does statewide and locally. So
Sometimes those acronyms can be like.
I know, it's like, I don't even know, what does it stand for? Barb, shack. This is my first time on it. It's
State Community Health Services Advisory
council or
Council,
committee.
yeah.
Yes. So, thank you.
And we talked with our Commissioner of Health, Dan Malcolm, and when also discuss all the public health issues around the state and how people are dealing with those. So it's always a good meeting.
And great learning experiences, right? Yep. Cool.
So are you done with those? Okay, and then I had one watershed, one plan meeting, and I had MESB, I don't, that's medical.
Metropolitan Emergency Service Board.
Yeah, emergency. And the shack meeting, and then also the COVID steering committee that I was talking about, it's at the state level. And I guess that's it. So,
We'll take a break.
yeah, so now we can take a short break. Is that, we adjourn our regular meeting, and when should we start with our ditch authority? Do you want to have 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or is 5 okay? Then we meet back at 10:30.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep, perfect.
So that would be the time for the meeting anyway, so that's.
Thank you.
We'll call our meeting to order. I'm sorry about that.
He's waiting. He's got pictures.
Yeah.
Not very many, but a few.
Welcome, Mike. We're here we need to approve our ditch authority agenda for today.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second to approve the agenda? Motion's been made and seconded to approve the ditch authority agenda for this date, April 19th, 2022. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Okay. So then, our next item is to receive and accept the ditch drainage technician's report. And pull it up on your. We have a little. Challenge with our.
So, any questions about the report?
No, I think.
You want to?
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Oh, we got it up here. Thank you.
Any questions, comments on my written report?
No, I move that we accept the ditch drainage technician's report as presented.
Okay, motion's been made to accept the ditch drainage report as presented. Is there a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Is he gonna show us pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
just the written
Alright.
report
Yep.
that's in there that we have to
No
approve.
discussion.
So do we approve this written report before we go with the pictures?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just, so motion is made and passed, been made and seconded to accept the ditch drainage technician's report. Is there, if no further discussion, should we go ahead and vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, motion passed, so now we can enjoy this pictures.
We have to.
Good morning again, everyone. I thought I'd wear a bright blue shirt today to kind of give spring a hint that we'd kind of like some color out there. Some nice flowers. Ditch 10, it's within the city of Elk River, Twin Lakes Road to 175th Avenue. This picture here is actually where we started on Twin Lakes. We've got the ditch cleaned all the way up to about right there. But we ran out of water, and as soon as we ran out of water, it was frozen hard as a rock. So we had to kind of abandon that operation for a little while. I'm guessing the way the weather's been, it's gonna be end of the month at the earliest before we'll be able to complete the rest of that ditch cleaning up to 175th. So I'll have an update.
You're gonna be wearing a lot of blue then, Mike.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll have a full report on next meeting in June. That's where we started, leveled off the spoil piles nice. There was actually more vegetation in here than silt, so it kind of really opened it up nice. It's just another view of the spoil. Leveled it off real nice with a backhoe. At the beginning, up on 175th, there was a bunch of trees in the way by the opening and by the road. So county maintenance went up and took care of these trees to get them out of the way, so we didn't have to do it during the ditch cleaning process. And it's good filler work for them guys. They like doing it when there's no snow. That's where you can see the apron. Apron is right here. A lot of brush grew around the apron. It's where there's a lot of moisture, so the brush really takes off. You really got to keep on top of it. As you can see how much grass is in the ditch. That's the contractor's truck there. This is right at 175th. I mean, you can see the indentation where the ditch lies, but it's really heavily grassed, a lot of grass. A lot of that tall grass. I call it elephant grass. It's really tall grass. I think that it's actually an invasive species.
That's interesting.
40th Street, just west of County Road 20, north of County Road 16. The beavers had the culvert completely plugged. This is like every 2-3 year deal. They come up from the river. You can't get rid of them.
May I ask a question? Have we ever thought about putting a Clemson leveler back in there?
I have not. We should probably try. The township is gonna replace that. They were gonna replace that culvert last year, but it sounds like they're gonna replace it this year. So maybe that's something we could add during construction. There's about 4 feet of water here. The 36-inch pipe is completely underwater. So it really held back a lot of water. We took a couple beaver out of here, and then a private landowner must have came and unplugged it somehow. I don't know how he did it, but there's a lot of pressure there, so once you get it started, it could have flushed itself out. Well, we had planned on that Monday or Tuesday to do it with our backhoe, and it was already taken care of. County Ditch 30 had a request from a couple farmers to clean the rest of this ditch. We have it cleaned from County Road 11 all the way to the north to the beginning. This stretch here wasn't in very bad shape, otherwise we would have done it with those cleanings. But now it's starting to get silted up, and this winter the water really backed up and actually caused a few up in this area here. A couple of the ditch banks actually slumped in because the water was so high. When it receded, the ice pulled the dirt with it. So I'm in the process of filling out the paperwork with planning and zoning and get approvals from DNR and Bowser. This is something I've stated in my report that we probably do after crops are out this fall. We don't want to interfere with the farming or do any crop damage. So it's not an emergency, so that's why we could put it off until fall. And that's all I have for this meeting. Pretty slow overall.
I was just curious, we've had, last spring was dry, and this spring has been wet. Has the water table level risen so it affected how ditches, how can be managed? Is that making it more challenging, or?
I think there was like an initial surge in some of the ditches where they were high, but they're way down again.
They are down.
The ground was so dry, it's just
Okay,
soaking
that's
everything up.
interesting.
Even if you're driving around, you look at a lot of the ponds and they're still dry. They still haven't bounced.
Yeah.
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 A lot of freezing and thawing, which really makes it just kind of soak into the ground nice.
Yeah, okay. That's why I was thinking that probably the way we had the moisture this spring, it wasn't a huge issue as far as washing out in different places, but, so it went into the ground. That's good.
I think we had about a 1-inch rainfall here a week ago, but other than that, hasn't really been nothing major. You have issues when the ground's frozen, you get 2-3 inches in like 24 hours. That's when you see problems.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? So then we can adjourn Ditch Authority meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we can.
We're gonna need just a couple minutes to get the tech set up. So because of the tech failure, and then Joel is off-site, Keisha's gonna start the WebEx. And then Tammy and Ben are gonna come in. We also have to set up the audio, and I think Steve's gonna pass out the briefing slides.
So when you're ready, we can reconvene.
Reconvene, so then you can go into closed session.
Yeah.
Thanks. How are you?